Hello, welcome to The Soul Project.
Glad you could join us.
I'm Elizabeth Vera.
And I'm Jorge Guerra.
And we are your co-hosts for this lovely podcast where we take you along with us as we unfold our soul journeys.
Hopefully some of our own chaos can help navigate yours.
Thank you for listening, and let's get into it.
Hello, soulmates.
Hello.
Hope you guys are doing well.
Yes, thank you again for all the support and for those tuning in. We appreciate you all.
Yeah, we're very excited to be back with you guys for another episode.
Yes.
But yeah, how have you been?
Been doing well. I'm excited for Gemini season.
Yeah, big season. It's almost your birthday.
It is my birthday season, so it might be a little biased, but it's always my favorite time of the year.
It's your chaotic era.
It is.
Yeah. How's it been treating you?
It's been good. Yeah. I feel like this season's always like a fun and like playful and like very social season, and so I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
And for my birthday, which is the big 25.
Yeah, that's a big number.
It is. I feel like it's like a good energy. Yeah. You know, I'm excited for it. So
I always have imagined 25 as like a new era, like you're transforming. Like you're an adult now,
right?
But I feel like it's a new stage of adulthood.
It really is, yeah. And even like mentally, I know they say like the brain
fully develops.
So maybe that has something to do with it, but it does feel like a big kind of stepping stone. Yeah. So I'm excited for it and what's to come.
And I feel like it's also a good transition into like summer as well.
Yeah. You know? Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's like always nice. I mean, obviously I'm biased because I love this season, but I think it's a good like midway point through the year, and it's like, okay, what's the next level kind of thing. So I'm excited for it for sure. And
I just picture it of like when I picture Gemini season, I don't know, I just see like the sun like running through a field, barefoot touching the grass, you know, flowers,
the pool,
the pool,
like, it's just like a good like summer entry
with like Good Days by SZA, like type of energy, you know.
I love that feels on brand.
But it's been good. I've been feeling it as more of like a wanting to just have like a refresh, you know. I feel like I've been needing it's a good point in the year for me to have like a little refresh and just kind of take a little bit of a breather and just rethink things and look at things differently and things like that.
And especially like this season too, is particularly because of all the like astrological transits that's going on. We've got like the big Jupiter transit into Gemini, which has been in Taurus for the past year. So now it's entering Gemini. And usually that means that it's kind of the planet of expansion and growth and luck. So anything around Gemini themes, such as like communication, knowledge, learning, anything social, you'll have a lot more luck and more expansion and growth in for the next coming years. So we'll start seeing that.
That's good.
This summer.
Yeah.
So
definitely needed.
Yes, good energy all around.
And we had a full moon in Sagittarius, right?
We did.
I definitely felt it. Like the energy was strong.
It shifted. It did. Yeah. No, I felt it too. Yeah. I think there's a lot of, it feels like the beginning of this year up until now has been a lot of like preparation. Yeah. And now the energy is kind of shifting to like action, like taking action and following through with the plans you've been preparing for. Yeah. So.
And I like how, if you remember last episode, we were talking about how technically March was around the time that we were filming the last episode, and that was kind of like the beginning of like the astrological year type of thing, you know?
Yes.
So it's cool how we went from that to now talking about where we are in terms of like this time of the year. But I definitely took advantage of the full moon, and I cleaned my whole room. I organized it. When I was in Mexico, I bought this soap, like this body soap that's supposed to like bring you good luck, and I brought it out, like manifested, like brought out the Palo Santo for my room, like put my crystals under the moon to like recharge them and everything. So definitely took advantage of all of that.
I love all that. Yes, I've been doing my meditation.
Yes, that too.
And my journaling and all that fun stuff. So this is a really good time to get clear on what you want for the next for the rest of the year, really.
Yeah.
So if you're into all that, or, you know, open to kind of reinventing yourself, which we'll talk a lot more about on this episode, this is a great time to do it.
And be very be very clear with what you want.
Yes.
Like, don't be scared to ask the universe. Like, be super precise.
Right.
Like, down to a T of exactly what you want.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, why not do it? If you know what you want, go for it.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm celebrating with my little Gemini mug.
Perfect.
And don't mind me, I'm getting over a little cold, so if I sound a little nasally or weird, I'm sorry, but we're going, you know, we can't stop. We just got to keep going.
A girl boss has to rest sometimes, and that's exactly what you're doing.
That's true. Yes.
So, tell us, what's the tea on this week's episode? What are we talking about?
So I mentioned reinventing ourselves, and I feel like this is a constant theme around this time, and also in like your 20s or just your young adult age, because you're constantly changing and you're constantly readapting or adopting new ideas and new perspectives. Because these are very transformative. Like, these years are very transformative. So we're just kind of talking about the idea of not being afraid to start again or start over.
Yeah. Literally in whatever stage of life you are, however old you are, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do because it's, you know, easy to want to continue with the fear of letting go of something that's already been built. But I think there's a lot of power that comes with being able to just start again, or it's kind of that like death and rebirth energy, that Scorpio energy of transformation. And if there's anything that's a constant in this life and guaranteed in life, it's change. That will always happen, so we might as well get comfortable with it.
Yeah. And it's kind of like in the sense of we get comfortable where we are, that we focus on like the future, but we're so comfortable that sometimes we're scared to kind of like take that leap or take the next step. But once you reach that point of like, you know what, it's time, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get to the next step, it's kind of like a powerful feeling because you're regaining your power and you're like transforming into, you know, the next version of yourself that's meant to be.
Right.
But I do want to mention though, one thing that like I was thinking about and that you reminded me of in the TikTok that you sent earlier was about how you have to appreciate the process no matter where you are, you know, because we're constantly focused on the future and what's next, and we don't appreciate what we have in the moment. And I can attest to this myself that, you know, I do have moments where I'm like, oh wow, I'm literally where I wanted to be, but then I kind of think back of where I was when I wanted that thing, and I kind of get kind of nostalgic about it because I'm like, I really liked or enjoyed my time when I was there and what I was going through. Like, it actually wasn't as bad or as hard as I thought it would be. So like enjoying wherever you are in the process. And I think that also puts you in a good place for the universe to see that you are open to new things and new possibilities and new opportunities, because your energy is just like in a high vibration of like, I'm good, I'm chilling, you know, but whatever happens, but I'm also grateful and appreciative of what's going on right now, you know?
No, for sure. I think, like enjoying the process, because at the end of the day, it really is the process. Like, if you were, it's like, I think I've heard the analogy of like watching a movie. If someone were to say, hey, let's just skip to the end of the movie to see how it ends, you wouldn't have enjoyed the movie because you missed the whole plot of it. You just know the ending. So it's like, what's the point of watching the movie if you just want to get to the end of it? So that's kind of like your process to going or getting to anywhere you want to be or getting anything done that you want to get done. We're so focused on the end result that we don't realize the journey and the process there is actually that's the most rewarding part of it, because you get to gather all these different things that you wouldn't have if you had just gotten straight there. So we need to appreciate that. And I think live more in the moment
yeah.
of it. And I think it kind of goes back to like a lot of people on like social media talking about how they miss like the COVID time of like lockdown. And I mean, now it's kind of crazy that we say these things, but it's like this nostalgia of that was a time where like everything like stopped and stood still, so we had to be present.
Yeah, we had to think, like actually sit down and think, because we had nothing else to do.
Right,
you know?
like you had to be very present in the moment, and you didn't know what was gonna happen next.
Yeah.
And so people were like, in that moment, we're like, when is this gonna end? Like, we just want things to go back to normal.
Yeah.
And then once it did, everyone's like, wait, I want to go back.
Yeah.
Like, that was actually kind of a fun time. So
yeah.
I think it's just a testament to you need to enjoy things as they go and as you have them in the moment. Because once you get to wherever you were trying to go quickly, you're going to look back and you're going to wish you had appreciated it more.
Yeah. And that's such a big topic, I think, in both of our lives right now, especially just because we are going through so many changes. Like, we've both been through like the corporate era of things, and just we're both at home currently with our parents. And so it's just a lot of like learning and shifting our mindsets and like adapting with different things. But I think a big thing as well is coming from Hispanic backgrounds. Like, it's, I don't know about other countries, but I know especially in Mexico, it's a big thing of like, you don't leave your house until you're married. And even then, sometimes then it's like, oh, you can stay here. Like, don't worry, like figure it out here, you know?
Right.
So it's like being attached to that of like, I don't know, just coming from our parents, like they want us to be at home and stuff. And we want to enjoy that as well. But sometimes we want to just like break free and go from there, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think I think that's the really interesting part of this time period is like everyone's in their own journey and everyone's it'll look so different for everyone. Yeah. Everyone's on their own timeline. And I think it's just kind of as you go, you're deciding what actually works for me, or what I actually want, and what doesn't work for me, or what I thought was supposed to work for me, but it was actually what other people told me had to work for me. Yeah. So I think it's just kind of like a shedding. It feels like up until, I mean, I don't think growth ever ends, but I think this kind of time period that we're in, it's just a shedding of what doesn't actually belong to us and what actually doesn't serve us anymore, and sticking true to what does feel good and what does feel right and what does feel authentic to ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. That's a really good point. And I think kind of tying it for me specifically in terms of like figuring out what I want to do in terms of career wise, you know, because when I graduated, I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go into, you know, because my degree was in administration with my concentration being in management, which I feel like out of all of the business degrees you can get, there's like accounting, marketing, supply chain. Yeah. I feel like management is probably like the most broad, where you can go into so many different, you know, directions. And I went into like the recruiting side of things, and I slowly realized that like that wasn't for me. I didn't like it. So it was a like a harsh reality of feeling like I was having to start over, because I was scared to start over. I wasn't sure of like what direction to go into. Right. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not sure what my next step is, or what I want to go into, or what career I want to do, if I'm going to do like a whole different career change. And that's scary, because it's like, you know, we're in our 20s where we have like the pressure of like, oh, we have to figure it out, even though we literally don't. Yeah. You know, like what you said, we're all on our own journey, on our own timeline. But I think one of the things, or the big theme, has been not being scared to start over, you know? Right. Because I honestly thought, oh, I'm going to stick to recruiting. Like, this is it. Like, it's good. There's good money here. Like, no, this is it. But I slowly realized, for many different reasons, that it wasn't what I wanted and what I was looking for. Right. And I still don't know what that is. I think I'm just kind of like testing the waters out with a few different things. Yeah. But I'm also learning to be easy on myself with all of that, because it can be kind of hard to put a lot of pressure on ourselves to figure things out. But I feel like that's not a good state to be in emotionally and energetically wise, just because you're not like operating at a high vibrational state, and it just doesn't bring in like the right type of energy, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree. Like, you're not going to figure it out on the first try. And that's really hard to kind of grasp, especially when we're so new to this.
Yeah.
And coming out of college, that's kind of the expectation is you know where you're going, you know what you're going to do, you already have your next step aligned before you even take your step out of what you were already in.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very important, like you said, to have a lot of patience and compassion, because I feel that too. I think that's the most important thing, is to allow yourself to take the next step if you feel like it's time for you to take the next step. I think it's the easy thing to do, or not easy, but I think what a lot of people tend to fall into if they're not, constantly having these questions, which I think it's good that we're having these questions and really being open about asking ourselves where we want to go. If you don't have these questions, or you're not taking the proactive action to be in control of where you're going, it's easy to fall into the habit of staying in something, and by the end of whenever it's too late to change, I guess, you feel like you have to stay there now for sure, because at the time that you had the opportunity to leave, you didn't.
Yeah.
And I think there's another story too about this guy who he studied law. He did he got his he went through law school and everything, and he worked, I think, for like a month, and he's like, I realized I don't want to be a lawyer, but he's like, everyone was telling me, well, you've already been in school for like 8+ years, like you invested so much money, you might as well stay. He's like, okay, I'll stay. And he's like, at this point, he's older, so I think at this point he's going to be retired, and he looks back on the time where he wanted to quit. He's like, I ended up hating it still after I continued, and I hated it every single day of my life. And instead of wasting the 8 years in school, I wasted my 30+ years working in it. So it's like, if you know.
Listen to your intuition.
Like, it's not going to change. It's only going to get louder.
And your body. Listen to your body as well.
For sure, yeah. I don't know how many, stories I've heard of people who they'll have, physical, illnesses and, trauma from being in something that they're not supposed to be anymore, because it's, rejecting it, which is, so interesting. But yeah, I think it's just kind of allowing yourself that ability to take 2 steps back so you can take that giant leap forward in the right direction.
Yeah. So shifting a little bit, I do have a question.
Yeah.
So since you're about to turn 25, what advice would you give your maybe 22, 21 and 23-year-old self?
Advice. I would tell her to just stay true to who she is. And by that I mean really listen to yourself and not be influenced by other people and their own projections of their life onto you. But also very proud of her, and I think she's been able to navigate very well through that as well.
That's
so
good. Yeah.
That's my advice.
I love that. I love that. And with you turning 25, I feel like I hear a lot of stories, and I can attest to this myself.
Yes.
For me, 25 was a year of, how do I put this? Kind of just like learning new things, but being more aware of who I am and wanting to stick to it, you know? And like I said earlier, I don't know what it is about the number 25.
Yeah.
For some reason in my mind, it's just like, oh, that's a big celebration. Like 25 is a good number. Like it's halfway to, well, not halfway, but you're almost to 30.
Yes.
But yeah, I think 25 was overall a fun year for me.
Yeah.
And I did learn a lot through it. It would, obviously I had like my hard times, but looking back on it, I'm definitely glad that all those things happened, because I wouldn't be where I am right now at 26 if it weren't for those things. And it's just crazy how you think back and see how things play out and how everything just like falls in place on your timeline, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say were like maybe like key things that you took away from that year?
Yeah, let's see. That's a tough one.
It doesn't have to be like specific, or if you don't, I mean, just something in general. Or what do you think like the general like theme of that year was?
Yeah, I think the general theme of that year was learning who I actually was, because that year was when I had just started my job in downtown in recruiting, and it was literally like the year of change, because I think it was like June 5th, I moved into my apartment, so I moved out. And then June 6th, I started my new job. And it was like such like a big transformation for me, because at the time I was like, I need to move out. Like for some reason, it was just apparent in my mind that I needed to move out and that was going to fix everything.
Right.
And so I moved out, started a new job. And then that whole year, I did a lot of learning of who I was, because I went from being at home and like being surrounded from my parents, my brother, even like the dogs, to literally just being me at the apartment. And when you're alone, you do a lot of thinking and you do a lot of like reflectioning on things going on in your life. So I learned a lot of things about myself. But with that being said, I was also kind of like in this state of mind where, I don't know, I feel like I wanted the biggest and best things at the time. For example, like I wanted the nice apartment, like I wanted like this luxury car for some reason. Like I wanted to have all these nice things, but it was because of the surroundings that I was in and like the environment. And I slowly started to realize that wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't allowing me to grow in the way that I wanted. It was just kind of like the people that I was surrounded with, whether it was at work or like going out and stuff like that. And I think one of the biggest things that I realized was when I went to Mexico, because that was when I went to Mexico for the first time in 22 years, I think. So just going to Mexico and seeing how like basically I'm like where my roots are from, and just realizing like there's so many things that not that I was doing wrong, but I think I was just looking at things in such a like a superficial way, and I feel like the things that I wanted completely shifted, you know, because I started craving more of like a slow paced type of life, and like wanting to be or spend more time with my parents, because at the time I just was going through that phase of like, oh, my parents don't understand me, they don't get it, you know, like they don't understand me, you know. But at the end of the day, it's like they're my parents and they know what's best for me sometimes, you know, and they've been through some of the situations that I've been through. So overall, I think 25, to summarize, was just a year of finding myself and putting all the pieces together, because I had little pieces of different things and places of who I knew I was, but they weren't necessarily like put together, like you know. So I spent the year, I feel like, just kind of putting myself, like the puzzle together and putting the pieces together. And it was like very refreshing to get to that point to where, obviously, like you said earlier, we're never going to stop growing, but I think I reached a point where I was like, you know what, I think I've learned a little bit more about myself enough to where I can take the next step of what I need to do next in my life, you know.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that. And I think that, I mean, I've been there too with you through this process. So seeing you go through all that transformation and and to the person you are today. You know, it's very inspiring.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for
the
upcoming year.
I'm excited to be able to see you grow through 25. You know, even
Yes.
we got to start off with a bang. We got to do a good celebration. We got to get a cute little cake.
Oh yes, always.
Yeah.
I do need to get a cake. But that's also so interesting that you're mentioning kind of like figuring out what you want in terms of like your values, because I know we've touched on it a little bit with the perfection years, and it's basically the belief that every year has like a theme to it based on astrology, but it's like every year has a theme that kind of lights up in your life. And for 25 it's about like kind of building your foundation, and it's like your values, building your wealth and building your abundance and what you value in your life. So I feel like that was like very aligned to what you were talking about, which is really interesting. But anyways, going back to like the starting over theme, I think the importance of having that reset is, I mean, like anything, like cleansing wise, you know, it's when you have that reset in your home, for example, you know, have that spring cleaning and getting rid of just random stuff that you don't need or like junk, you just have the clarity to think differently.
It affects your space.
It really
feels
does.
lighter.
Yes, like you're able to think and process things differently and have the ability to kind of move further than you could have otherwise. So there is so much power and so much efficiency. And I say efficiency because I think often, and honestly, the reality is that we see breaks as a society, like taking breaks and taking like rest as a very inefficient thing, or like the idea of, you know, just not doing anything that's like unproductive and like you're wasting your time. And in fact, it's actually very beneficial, and you actually need that time to be able to give yourself the space to kind of move tenfold more than what you could have before. So I think just trying to instill that in ourselves and allowing us to rest and allowing us to take a break when our body is asking us and when our mind is asking us, it'll help you be way more efficient and way more productive in the end. So that's kind of also the power of allowing yourself to reset and have that kind of cleansing, that mental reset as well.
I think that's a good point to bring up too, because I think sometimes we get so caught up with everything that's going on that we forget that, and we're just constantly like the next thing, and I need to do the next thing and the next thing, and we can sometimes be in such a fast-paced mode where we think we don't have time to do something like cleaning our room or cleaning up our space, but like once you dedicate the time to do it, you see how much of a difference it makes. I don't know about you, but I've always noticed that my room kind of represents my state of mind. And if my room is like messy, I for some reason just feel so all over the place. And so I'm like, wait, I need to take a step back. Let me clean my room. Let me do some laundry. Let me organize whatever it takes. And it makes a difference.
It does.
It makes such a difference because I don't know, like I said earlier, I personally just feel lighter. And there's something so powerful of like cleaning your room, organizing it and everything, and then lighting a candle. Like, I don't know, it just puts me in such a meditative space. And I think that's so important with like this day and age, like no matter where you are in life or however old you are. But I think especially with us, just because our generation is currently like the one that's going to be in control of like the future. Like we're going to be future leaders in the of something, you know? So that's a lot of pressure. But with that being said, I think one of the big things with our generation is that we're so adaptable that like I feel good that like we sometimes feel like we don't have things in control, but I think we're doing a good job because we also don't tie ourselves down to one thing, you know, like we are slowly learning to like shift and elevate ourselves in one way or another. And I think that's so important, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I think just like the ability to have conversations that prior to us were not able to be had.
Yeah.
So I feel like just the opening up more and instilling, like, obviously what has been done in the past is not working for us.
Yeah.
Because it's changing, you know. Like I said, the only constant in life is change. So we must work with it. So we can't be doing the same routine or the same moves that we were before because we're not in the same environment we were before. Yeah. You know, we're in a different world. So I think just having these conversations and allowing ourselves to, I think as a collective, as a community, and as a generation, resetting and seeing like, okay, where do we want to go moving forward? What is the what is the future look like for us, and being real with that, and not only adapting to it, but making the active change towards it. Yeah. And kind of changing the norm and what is the definition of success. Because we're seeing it now. I mean, so many people, we have such a different range of careers and different lifestyles than ever before. I mean, there's people who are making very, very good incomes based on TikToks, you know, like that's a reality. Like, people don't even have to work the 9 to 5. Like, they are making videos or freelancing. You know, work from home is a big thing now. So there's a much more globalized space for us to find where we fit more than ever. So it's it's understandable why we're confused because there's a whole realm of options that didn't exist before. So, and there will be a whole other set of options a few years down the road as well. Like, if things are just going to keep changing. So as things come up and things become more normalized, I think we'll start to find our own niche and where we fit in that space. But the importance here is being able to sit back and kind of see that, because it's hard to see that when you're like so focused on like the same thing over and over again. So taking like a step back and taking a breather and seeing that from another perspective, like realizing there's so many options of paths and lifestyles and the way that you live your life. So, you know, make sure that you're allowing yourself to move in that direction that you want.
And going back on what you said earlier about, like, for example, like people making an income such as like TikTok and stuff, I think it's such a cool thing that there's so many more like creative outlets for us to take advantage of, because that's so important. You know, like, it's good to, you know, have a career and have something that you're passionate about. But I think for me personally, and I think a lot of other people, and I think we've talked about this before, but like sometimes what we need is to just have like a creative outlet to express ourselves that's different from our job or whatever it is that we do on a day-to-day basis, because it's kind of like our way of de-stressing and kind of just like expressing ourselves and getting to, I almost see it as like a form of meditation, you know, because you're learning yourself, you're kind of expressing yourself in physical forms, whether that's like making clay or drawing or music or playing the guitar, the piano, different things like that, you know?
For sure.
So I think it's so cool that for our generation, it's those things are becoming so much more apparent. And one thing that I was going to mention earlier is that like what worked for our parents aren't working for us. You know, what worked for the older generations aren't working for us. And I think it's such a cool thing that we're seeing that, and that we're obviously it's not easy, but we're putting in the work to like figure out, okay, well, that isn't working, but let's figure out what is going to work, and let's try this out or let's try that out, you know?
Right.
So it's cool that like we're getting to that age, or we're literally at the age where we have the power to kind of just try different things out. Like we realize we're not stuck to one thing.
Yeah.
You know? And that's where the power comes in of like, it's okay to start over, you know? Like it's so fine. Like everything happens for a reason.
Right.
You know, just being open to new opportunities and new possibilities. Like you're already one step ahead, you know?
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. And if anything, this is the time to start over, you know, like, and I'm not saying that it's ever too late to start over, but now is like the time to explore and to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what actually makes you happy and what actually just doesn't really light you up. And being honest with yourself, because I think we tend to be our biggest deceivers sometimes, and not allowing ourselves to admit that I thought something bit me, to admit that like that we desire to live a certain lifestyle, or experience certain things, because we're afraid of what people think, and that also has a lot to play into this time, because this is the time where we're the most like hyper aware of other people, and I think as we get older it just starts to fade off, as so I've heard from people that have said that. So I think that's why it's a little easier, or not easier, but it's a little clearer to make some certain decisions than it is now, because we're filtering that through 1,000 different people's minds and voices of what we need to be doing. So I think I don't think that what we want necessarily changes drastically. I think it just has less filters on it from other people's opinions. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do is get to the root of what actually makes us happy. And that doesn't have to be one thing. I think it's changing, like, we can't depend on one thing to make us the happiest person. Like it takes, like you said, a puzzle. Like we're a puzzle. We're a mosaic of everyone and everything that we've experienced. So it's allowing yourself to build your puzzle of a life, you know, with all its contents. Like you said, your hobbies, like creative pursuits and everything that sparks your interest, because that's what you're here for. You know, you're not here to be the dull little light in the corner. Like you're here to be the fire in the middle, you know? So
we're meant to shine. We
are. So I think that's the beauty of being able to start over, is you can build a bigger fire, you know? But to get there, you've got to be honest, and you've got to take the steps, and it's not easy, but at the end of the day, whose life are you living? Is it yours or somebody else's? And then nobody else is going to live your life. It's just you. So just reminding yourself, like, this is all for you. Like, this is all happening for you, not to you.
It's a part of the process.
It is part of the process. And enjoy it. Even the stuff that's not so enjoyable, enjoy it, because life is boring without any contrast, you know? If life was always great and like butterflies and sunshine and rainbows, it wouldn't feel like that, because that's all we would ever know. So I think we need those like thunderstorms to really have that contrast of what is really the beauty of life and what is the learning process of life.
I think it's just all of that, and then reminding yourself, we are powerful. We are strong.
Exactly.
We are
affirmations.
We have purpose.
We
you know,
do.
No matter what, we have purpose. You know. And just reminding yourself of all those things, And I've really needed to hear that this whole week, because the whole like job hunt, like trying to figure out like what the, like, it's so humbling.
It is.
It's so humbling. It's
Yes.
like, wow, that's crazy. Like,
Cool.
I have a college degree and you're wanting to offer that for pay, you know?
Right.
But I think it's just sticking to it and reminding yourself, like, everything happens for a reason. And one thing that I've always have noticed is that it has to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. That's very
Unfortunately, like,
true. Yeah.
it sounds bad, but it kind of gives you a little bit of hope, because it's like, okay, cool. Like, it gives me a little bit more of a reason to keep hanging on, you know? So it's like, it's fine. It's going to get a little bit worse, but the outcome will be worth it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And it's good to remind yourself of those things.
For sure. It's always worth it. you
But
know?
going easy on yourself too, like whenever you are having those days where it's
Yeah.
like, where you're
Like
feeling,
doubting everything.
yeah, and you're feeling down, it's like, go to your connections, like go touch some grass, you know,
Yeah,
go run
go
through a
lay in
field,
it,
you know,
yeah.
like go for a drive, like listen to music, scream in your car, do whatever it takes, like
Right.
hang out with your friends, like just
Yeah.
do things that empower you
Mm-hmm.
to help you stick along with the process, you know?
Right. That's actually a really good point that you bring up, because I think something that we need to bring more, and I think it's very different, but is like the sense of community. It's like realizing like our experience is not isolated.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, whatever you're going through right now, there's someone out there who's already been through it
Yeah.
or is going through it with you
Yeah.
at the same time. So I think just like, I mean, social media as a whole, and honestly, why we even started this podcast,
Yeah.
it was to have that community and make it more aware to ourselves that we're all doing this together. Like, we're all experiencing this. We're all going through these hardships, and we're also going through these learning curves. And you're not alone. You're not
Yeah.
alone in this. You know, there's a whole bunch of people that will tell you exactly that they're feeling this way as well, or they went through that as well, and this is how it turned out for them. So
Yeah.
I think it's important that we take the steps to create that community for ourselves, or like reach out, because unfortunately, like, there's a lot of loneliness in this day and age. You know, with social media, I think there's kind of that like false sense of connection where we really aren't like connected to these people, even though we're like following like all these people and like we're connected on social
Yeah.
media, but it's like, who are the true like friendships and
Yeah.
like relationships that you have in your life? Because those are the people that are going to help you get through. It's so important. You
Yeah.
know, can't do this on your own. You
Yeah.
know, you're going to need help, and so that's why it's very important to create that community for
Yeah.
yourself and have those relationships in your life.
Yeah, I agree. But that's so nice to hear, and
Yeah.
having that community is so strong. You know,
It is.
having
It's a game
something that
changer.
you can go back to, and
Yeah.
I don't know, just having somebody there, you know, it makes all the difference in so many
Yeah.
things, you know.
For sure. Like, even just someone that you can take a moment to just maybe if you're not good at meditating, because I know like it's hard to, maybe it's just like, hey, let's just sit together and take a moment to
Yeah.
just like breathe, you know? I think everything tends to be a little easier with someone else as
Yeah.
well. But I get it. It's hard to make those connections, but I think just setting that intention to bring these type of people into your life, it'll eventually make its way to
Yeah.
you.
And being kind
Yes.
takes
being
you
kind.
such a long way. Like, remembering we're all human,
Yeah.
so be kind.
Exactly.
You know, like, I know we have rough days. We have days where it's not easy to be kind,
Right.
but you never know what anybody's going through, or nobody knows fully what you're going through.
Exactly.
So trying, or like making that effort to just be kind goes a long way.
Oh yes, 1,000.
And you don't know how it could impact somebody else, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, for sure. I think that's the most important is having compassion for yourself and having compassion for others, because we're all going through our own things.
Yeah.
And like you said, we don't know what could be happening on the other side, you know? So just taking that extra bit of kindness can go a long way. So yeah, it's a good message.
Yeah.
Good reminder.
Yeah. I'm very happy that we've gotten to speak about all this.
Yeah.
As much as like we are like wanting to spread the message, like it's so like fulfilling just to be able to speak about it, you know, and kind of just getting it, getting it off our chest.
Yeah, like I mean, I needed to hear this, so I was like, I'm gonna listen back to this myself. And I think that's like that's the beauty of sharing and expressing yourself, because a lot of times you'll come up and say things that you didn't know where they came from, but you know, they're in you, they're within you, and you just need to express that and let it come out, let it come to the light, and then you can have beautiful moments like these.
Yes.
So yeah, like this is the time to do those things you've been trying to talk yourself out of doing, and go for it. I mean, that's why we started this podcast. And so if you're trying to start your own, this is a sign. Or if you're trying to just do
whatever,
all those side projects, you know, like go for it. Why not? Who cares what people think? They won't even care, honestly. I'll tell you that. No one actually cares. So don't worry about it. So
this is your sign to take it one step further. You are powerful, you are strong, you are beautiful.
You are amazing.
Yes.
All
the things.
Leave it up to us to hype anybody up.
Yes.
You've got this. You are a force to be reckoned with.
Yes.
And we are all going to make amazing changes in this world.
Yes.
I truly believe that. And we're doing it all together.
Yes.
And so I'm excited to see what we all are able to create in this life.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing this time and sharing your words.
Thank you as well.
Of course, anytime. Please stay tuned for more episodes, and you can check us out on Spotify and on YouTube. And hopefully we'll try to get more platforms up and running, possibly. And if you're not following us on Instagram yet, we are at The Soul Project 111.
Yes, we're more active now, so.
Yes. So slowly but surely, you know, building that up, and we appreciate all the support.
Yeah, and we'd love to talk to you guys on there too.
For sure.
Send us a little message, or I don't know, what do you guys want, like whatever you guys want to talk about and stuff too.
Yeah, we'd love to hear also ideas and see what you guys want to, you know, kind of have a conversation about, or want us to open that conversation. So we're really excited to hear more and to share more with you guys. And we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.
So bye-bye.
That was good.
That was so good.